This just into CNN about President Trump's forthcoming decision, his big announcement on the Paris Climate Agreement, and whether he will be taking the United States out of that deal. The president facing a choice: fulfill a campaign promise, which is get out of the deal, or get out of the deal, or stay in the deal and not fulfill a campaign promise and go against all of his base supporters. Can he somehow please both? Let's find out what the very latest of this is on it. Athena Jones is at the White House because there is some late-breaking, I don't know what we call it, movement on this, Athena. What are you hearing?
Hi, Kate. Well, this is reporting from my colleague Jim Acosta, who spoke with a GOP source who says that all indications continue to be that the president is going to pull the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. We've heard that reporting from several sources, and that continues to be the case. But this source says that it's possible that there may be some language that attempts to satisfy Ivanka Trump, who has been pushing her father to remain in the deal. A lot has been made about the kind of war going on within the White House between the so-called nationalist folks like Chief Strategist Steve Bannon and folks like Ivanka Trump, the more globalist side of the White House. Ivanka Trump is one of several groups of people who have been pressuring her father to stay in the Paris Climate Accord, along with European leaders, even the Pope, and a long list of American companies who are urging the U.S. to stay in. What's not clear is what exactly this means. What would the language potentially say? Would it try to strike some sort of middle ground? For instance, potentially staying in the deal, but then lowering the emissions targets that the U.S. has committed to? That's one of the things that still remains in question, Kate.
A very big question. Now, in classic Trump fashion, raising the suspense even more on that big announcement coming in just a couple hours. Athena, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Let's discuss this right now, what this means, what the fallout could be, political and otherwise. With me now, Brian Lanza. He was Deputy Communications Director for the Trump campaign. And Symone Sanders is here. She's a former press secretary for Bernie Sanders' campaign. Guys, great to have you here. We're going to talk about something completely different, but let's talk about this. Let's talk about this right now. Exactly, Brian. So, Brian, if language is in there to please Ivanka, right, to kind of try to thread the needle, if that's what the president is going to do, I mean, that you have to assume that means keeping something of the goals that were set out by the Paris Climate Agreement and what the United States brought to the table. Can the president still say he's fulfilling a campaign promise?
You know, let's remember what that promise was to restore American jobs. And so if you're looking
to get out of the Paris Climate Agreement.
Well, because there was a threat that it was affecting American business here because they had to abide by standards that the rest of the world wasn't going to abide by. So I mean, that's what the bulk of the Paris Agreement was, and what Trump said, what he said throughout the campaign, and the entire narrative of our campaign was: we're going to put America first, and we're going to put American jobs first. And if there is an amendment that can go through this process that highlights that point and that makes it a better business deal for America, why shouldn't we stay in it? But we should analyze all the options that exist. You know, Ivanka get involved, everybody get involved.
Brian,
that's the process.
You think if he stays in the deal, even if they completely blow out the goals that are in there, which is one of the options because it's voluntary, if he stays in the deal, can he still say he's fulfilling that campaign promise?
I think he can fulfill the promise by telling the voters who voted for him, it's like, I'm here to create American jobs, and if there's a treaty, if there's an agreement that focuses on that and hits those goals, then he can turn to his base and say, look what I've accomplished.
Go ahead, Symone.
I just don't think Donald Trump can just say anything and all of a sudden that makes it a rubber stamp and all of a sudden he has satisfied his campaign promises. Look, the fact of the matter here is that if we pull out of the Paris Climate Agreement, it'll be us, Nicaragua, and Saudi Arabia that are not participating.
Syria, yeah.
Syria that are not participating. So I think it's comforting to me actually to hear that perhaps there'll be some additional language, but I'm not sure what can happen short of we're in or we're out. And so the president has been saying, I'm going to pull out of the agreement. There were conversations about this on the campaign trail. There has been reports about it over the last couple of days. So I am, again, cautiously optimistic that anything positive is going to come out of this statement that the president has to say.
See, look, Brian, the president could be winning over Symone Sanders if he stays in That's broadening the party. There you go. There you go. But can he have it both ways? Listen, Brian, I mean, he's definitely going to be accused of trying to have it both ways, right?
You know, what he's going to be accused of is prioritizing American jobs, and that's an accusation we take, and we hold that label with high regard, because that's why we're here.
I'm just trying to figure out who says
like
we're
a dozen
losing jobs,
Fortune 500 companies want him to stay in the deal, right?
What's that? I missed that. What you said.
A dozen Fortune 500 companies want him to stay in the deal, and they say it actually doesn't help us in the long run.
I think in the wrong one, we'll see what the tweaks look like that some of the people brought forward at the end, and we'll look at what the impacts are. You have a president that's analyzing data from every side. He's listening to the Bannon side. He's listening to the Jared Ivanka side. I mean, he's getting an informed decision, which is what we want from a president. If he sees an opportunity to strengthen something that is to the benefit of the United States, that is benefited to the American worker, why shouldn't he exercise on that? That's why he's here.
So, Brian
I want to be
good
clear.
at communications for Trump then, good at communications for Trump now. Great to see you, Brian. Thank you, Simone, for being here as always. I'm sorry I had to cut it short with the breaking news, but I'm glad we got it in. Coming up next.